morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Welcome to Analyze and Educate. Pat Ruffino doing the show today. So we're going into week 5. Market of QB rankings in the XFL is starting to regulate itself. We're starting to see our consistent top fours in addition to our back half of the league. Now, it's been pretty volatile. This week we saw 12 QBs in the XFL have significant playing time. So we're going to knock out this list. Plot twist: all of the rankings are going to be, or all of the quarterbacks are actually going to be ranked. There's no honorable mention. Starting off at number 12, we got DeAndre Francois. After not playing last week and all the drama going on in Orlando, he came in. It seemed that he came in due to Robert Ford wanting him in, as Terrell Buckley wanted 6 in, 6 being Paxton Lynch. Francois came in 1 of 4, 19 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks, a rushing attempt for 6 yards. Got the game started for Orlando. Got them a field goal, but was taken out immediately. Apparently, he had a concussion as well. Didn't practice today. Looks like Quinn Flowers is going into week 5 as the number 2. Nothing really to talk about with Francois. Brief entrance. Kind of looks, flustered at times, frustrated. Team doesn't really look like they're rallying around him. There's a lot of rumors going around between him and Dormandy, all that stuff. Flowers came in to be a little bit of a stabilizing force. Obviously, Francois still having passing issues. He overthrew one of his passes and just didn't look comfortable. That offensive line is pretty dreadful, but as of right now, it seems that Paxton Lynch is the best option for them. Last week, Francois was unranked. This week, he comes in at number 12. Coming in at number 11, we got Cole McDonald, previously an honorable mention. This is his first time on the list. Saw an increase in his playing time due to the Orlando only putting up 16 points. Even with Max Borghi out, the rushing attack of the Houston Roughnecks with Bryce Lean and DeJuan Lee still uber dynamic. McDonald went 2 of 2 for 14 passing yards, 2 rushing attempts, 31 passing yards. I mean, you can't stop this Houston offense right now. Doesn't matter if McDonald's in, LB's in, or Silvers. They could probably put Kirkland back there at quarterback. He threw a touchdown pass as well. Overall, this team is stacked. And when you have McDonald in there, it opens up the rushing attack because now they're being accountable. It becomes 11 on 11 football. You got to be accountable for him. Tucked in and ran twice, obviously, for those 31 yards. Whole team looks good. They're firing on all cylinders. Borghi was out last week. They got a short week this week. Playing the Sea Dragons. Look for the same formula from any Houston quarterback, with obviously Silvers taking the lead. But this is McDonald's first ranking, essentially, because he's been honorable mention the last 2 weeks. Coming in at number 10, we got Brett Hundley. Hundley got pulled what appeared to be due to a thigh injury, and then Perez came in. He started off pretty decent, 4-5, 50 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 2 rushing attempts, 0 rushing yards, and a big fumble. I thought Hundley was going to take another step this week versus DC. I didn't think they'd win, but I did think Hundley would have another solid performance. He's been in the middle group. Last week he was at 7 after debuting at 8 on short notice. At this point, there's a lot of regime change going on. They just fired the offensive coordinator, promoting someone else for the Vipers. 0-4, they're going into this pseudo tank bowl essentially versus the Guardians, who are also 0-4. Hundley was a full participant in practice today. Today is the 14th. It's Pi Day or 314 Day for St. Louis people who listen to this. I mean, just didn't have enough game film, whether it be the injury or ineffectiveness. Regardless, with the Northern Division still coming down between the Battlehawks and the Defenders, I guess look for Hundley to come back in and out. But as we see, and we'll talk about later, Perez had had a good game rebounding. But I'm not a big fan of these alternating quarterbacks. Obviously, the Defenders do it and the Roughnecks do it, but it's a little bit different because of the skill sets that they're rotating. I mean, Hundley, I felt like he took 2 steps forward last week this week. Obviously, minimal amount of snaps, and kind of got put to the wayside with Luis Perez coming in. He, as I stated, Red Home Lane number 10. This one kind of hurts. I had him ranked really high in the preseason. Obviously, he didn't start the first 2 games. Kyle Slowder coming in at number 9. Previously, he was ranked number 6. Not a good day. Everyone thought the Renegades were going to have one of the better offensive lines. They had 2 all USFL guys coming over, a couple other guys with alt league and experience and NFL experience. So they're going 23 of 39 for 205, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks, a rushing temp, 11 yards, and a fumble. He had 4 turnovers on the day. It did look like he was able to find Caleb Van Der Esch downfield twice. Unfortunately, he did suffer. I counted over 5 drops. Other people said they counted 8. I was at the game. Looked jittery the whole time. After his first option, looked like he kept going the Canella. You saw Canella put up another 5 or 6 catches for 30 or 40 yards. Or he was going to the check down running back. Seems like he lacks a lot of confidence in his receivers right now outside of Van Der Esch, but even Van Der Esch had a drop as well. Granted, he got knocked by a Battlehawk safety on the play, but regardless, he looks uber jittery. There's a lot of pressure on him, even though they only had one sack. It was a forced fumble. Renegades got 2 big games coming up. They're going back to back with the Brahmas. Matty Fresh said it himself. It looked like that the Renegades are going to go 7-3 and grift their way to the playoffs. Obviously, they win these 2 games versus the Brahmas. They're 4-2. They'll have another shot at the Guardians. They'll probably win that. That's a fifth win. But overall, Slowder is not looking like a shell of himself. He's played a lot of football in the preseason. It looked like that, in my opinion, he's pressing too hard because I think he knows this is his last NFL shot. Obviously, he got an opportunity in the USFL last year, was the all-USFL quarterback. Everyone kind of chalked up his back half of tailoring off due to injury. But something I want to keep in the back of everyone's heads, and I talked about it last week, was with Slowder, everyone talks about his awesome preseason games, but who's he playing? And it's not that he's playing 2s and 3s. It's he's coming in and he's not starting, and he's not starting the game, and he's going against guys who have maybe been playing a quarter or 2, and he's coming in fresh. So that might dictate where his effectiveness and kind of the inflation of his stats were in the NFL during the preseason. Everyone's disappointed. Everyone wants this guy to succeed. He's got a great story. He's been on like 9 NFL teams. He's tried out for 26 of them. This is his 3rd league he's in. He was ranked very high. I had him at number 2 coming into the preseason. I don't think anyone would really disagree with me on that. However, this is the twilight is kind of coming on his football career, at least getting to the NFL, and I think that's what probably is in the back of his mind. I don't know if John Hayes is the problem. They had a hard time pressing the ball downfield with Drew Plitt. I'd like to see Kevin Anderson get a shot. If they lose this game to the Brahmas, it becomes a quick battle for the number 2 spot in the South Division, because it looks like obviously Houston's got that first spot all locked up. Coming in at number 8 for the 2nd consecutive week, Jack Cohn. Hines Ward's talking about a QB change. They just demoted Jaime Elizondo, and they promoted, Jaime Elizondo, former Tampa Bay Vipers coach and CFL coach, and promoting Jimmy Johnson. Changed things up. One thing, the running game wasn't effective. Cohn was their leading rusher with 9 rushing yards. Overall, he was 20 of 39, 189 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 1 fumble, adding in the 9 rushing yards as well. He's not progressing. This is not good. 2 subpar performances. They're talking about bringing in Sinet. I had Sinet ranked higher in my preseason rankings. He hasn't played 1 snap yet in the first 4 weeks. As I talked about with Slowder, they got 2 big games coming up. If he doesn't put it together in these next 2 weeks, not only is his NFL window closing, but he might be regulated to being an XFL or USFL quarterback for the next part of his career. And then it comes down, does this guy want to play? Looking jittery. The offensive line doesn't look good. Abdul Beecham having a lot of a lot of the trouble at tackle. Obviously, Jordan McRae not being there, the all, you know, AAF, all XFL, all IFL center. He's out with injury, obviously a little bit older, but having his leadership on the offensive line as he is a center could definitely hurt. And I mean, that running game with Kalen Ballage, Jacques Patrick should be putting up at least 100 yards a game combined, like they did a couple times in the beginning of the season. Moving down to number 7, I got D'Eriq King. Previously, he was ranked at 9. Once again, a little bit more of a sample size. Threw another touchdown for the second consecutive week. Added 2 on the ground. Had 8 rushing yards in 4 attempts. Even if it's kind of like the Cole McDonald situation. Even if he's not rushing the ball on every play, the fact that he's on the field makes you accountable for him running around. We saw it in the Battlehawks game where you could see that they really had a limited pass rush, a bunch of spies, and that made him a little bit uncomfortable in a couple of his passing attempts. I think he only had 2 rushing attempts against the Battlehawks for like 9 yards, but they were so cognizant of it, and then eventually he was able to throw a nice touchdown to Chris Blair. Now, I don't want to see King throw the ball 20 times a game. I don't think that'd be effective at all. But these sample size we're getting that are going to utilize his dynamic rushing ability, it's really going to open up the passing attack for not only him, but Tayamu in the fourth quarter. And we've seen back-to-back weeks in which King is throwing a fourth quarter touchdown. 3 total touchdowns this week. Limited playing opportunity, but still I feel like just enough. And it was a little bit of an increase in the workload. And it seemed like maybe just to spell Tayamu because he had almost 90 yards rushing. Regardless, it does appear that, King is going to continue to, be worked in and whatnot and utilize that opportunity. And he's been making the most of it and doing a pretty good job. Coming in at number 6 on our list, it's going to be Luis Perez, the Vegas Vipers. I mean, Perez, the Spring King, or he was dubbed the Spring King originally. I have revoked that title. He came in and put in a good game. I would have put him at 5 if he didn't have that issue. I felt that him trying to go for that QB draw at the end of the game probably wasn't the best thing. That's kind of knowing the game because if you don't get it, obviously there's that 10-second runoff. I wasn't on the field. I didn't see what he saw. And moving forward, I would have loved to see, him kind of not him throw the ball out of bounds if he didn't have his open receiver. I think it would have been 3rd down and they could have got some points. Ultimately, it didn't really matter. Perez did a lot of good things, though. He threw for 283 yards on 32 attempts, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 1 rushing attempt for 4 yards. He just needed that 5th yard. I mean, even on that draw, even if he could have maybe put the ball out, go all out on it, I don't know. I was not him. I mean, it was a good bounce back game for him. Maybe it had to do with the coaching change at offensive coordinator. Maybe it had to do with him being a little bit more free. It was his second, it was probably his best game this year. But it is good to see him airing it out a little bit more. Still has trouble on the out routes. Still doesn't have the greatest arm strength, but he is pretty comfortable throwing the ball over the middle of the field. And it looks like him and Sweeting have a good connection. So I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I don't think Rod Woodson knows what they're doing at quarterback. Like I said, Brett Hundley was healthy going into practice today. He was a full participant, so we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. I mean, either way, going 0-4, hopefully Vegas can take advantage of the situation, playing the Guardians, and utilize it as a get-right game. Speaking of the Guardians, coming in at number 5, second consecutive week, Paxton Lynch. Lynch, tale of 2 halves, right? 18 of 30, 267 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 2 rushing attempts, 0 yards, and a fumble. Obviously, that fumble was a air quote lateral behind the line of scrimmage. John Martin didn't catch a swing pass, and Wayne got returned for 6 points against the Roughnecks. I mean, this team's having a lot of offensive line issues. They're having a lot of coaching issues, and they had 13 penalties. Lynch made some great throws in this game, and he made some terrible throws in this game. Pretty much the culmination of his alt football and NFL career. I counted 4 drops by the Guardians by the Guardians, their receivers. I also counted Paxton Lynch having 4 bad throws. He threw 2 beauties, one to Charleston Rambo for 89 yards, and another to Jalen Smith, former Battlehawk, 39 yards. I mean, Lynch is by far not the elite guy in the XFL as far as quarterbacks. He's definitely not the problem on this Guardians team. They bring in a new guy, Stroman, to play right tackle. He had a couple penalties. It just seemed like nonstop. Any momentum they got, even like a 7-yard, third down or 7-yard second down play, and then it was negated by a penalty. So even if you're not getting the first down, obviously you're pushing back. Your field position's all jacked up with the punt. Maybe you're going out of field goal range. Guardians played a lot tougher than I think everyone expected them to, but towards the end of the game, it just got away from them. They couldn't compete with Brandon Silvers and that dynamic offense. Coming in at number 4, another guy, second consecutive week, we got Jordan Tayamu. Now, Tayamu, second consecutive week of another consistent performance. He's over 50% completion percentage for the year. And, man, this dude's rushing ability, every time he plays alt football, USFL, XFL 2020, he's a top 10 rusher. Right now, he's number 3 in the league, I believe. Guy put together, 14 of 19, 177 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks, no turnovers, 9 rushing attempts, 89 rushing yards. I mean, this defender's offense is starting to click. I think it's between Tayamu just getting comfortable, the offensive line getting healthy. Bruno Reagan starting last week. Liam Ryan goes to the left guard. Team looks a lot better. They bring in Alex Ellis to replace Ethan Wolf, who's going to be hurt for 2 weeks. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this going into the Dome. They're 4-0 right now. It just seems like everything's kind of clicking. Once Tayamu, and I said this in a couple weeks, and I've said it in past videos, once Tayamu got his passing ability over that 50% mark, the team is in a lot better position. I'd like to see him kind of drive the ball into the end zone, but right now his rushing ability is unmatched to any of these quarterbacks, including Cole McDonald and Derek King. Like I said, 9 rushing attempts for 89 yards. I think he had a 40-yard scamper at one point as well. This guy's playing exactly how everyone thought he'd be playing now. He's looking like his 2020 self. The big thing is the offensive line is allowing him to get comfortable. He's not making these errant throws. Battlehawks want to take him out of that groove. We're going to see a lot of exotic blitz packages in order to do so. Coming in at number 3, Ben DiNucci. Last week he was number 2. He went 28 of 41, 264 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 2 rushing attempts for 2 rushing yards. The only reason why DiNucci takes a step back is because they put only 15 points on the board. Evan Wilsmore said it pretty decent that they got now Morgan Ellison back there, who's been a stud, but now they're actually utilizing him more, taking more pressure off. DiNucci's biggest knocks, he got 10 turnovers this year. So even though he's thrown 10 touchdowns, he's got 10 turnovers. That's my big knock on him. And you got to put up more points against the Brahmas, especially with the limited movement of the ball that they had. 15 points is just not enough to compete in the North. Even though what we've seen with like the Battlehawks, a more systematic offense, they're still going to put over 20 points a game on you. DC, that 4-headed rushing attack. DiNucci's got to limit his turnovers. He could put the Sea Dragons back in a playoff push. I'll move him up a couple rankings, but I feel like number 3 is the best ranking for him right now, especially his stats could be a little bit overinflated as well. Coming in at number 2, I got AJ McCarron. Coming into the Dome, talking about it being an Alabama atmosphere, this guy performed. I only ranked him for 2 bad throws. The Battlehawks had 3 drops. Their receivers did. And it looked like, because I was at the game, I saw Hakeem Butler getting blanketed a little bit. This dude found Darius Shepard. They utilized Austin Prohl, got him open, especially at that end of the first half where he's taking the clock down, finding the right play, and then throwing a touchdown to Darius Shepard to close out the half. Brian Hill was rejuvenated in front of his friends and family. He's a St. Louis native, so we're going to have week 5 with the defenders coming in. I think the utilization of Brian Hill, these other receivers getting more comfortable, not just the Hakeem Butler show with Shepard putting almost 100 yards up and Austin Prohl having some critical first downs. as long as McCarron can just play that turnover-free football, you had 3 turnovers in week 3 against the Defenders. He cuts that down to 0, plays really smart football, throws his 2 touchdowns. I could see him leading to I don't want to call it an upset, but some might. Defenders look like to be the second best team at 4-0. Who can you argue with? Like I said, he only had 2 bad throws I counted outside of his throwaways and whatnot. That interception gets that ball down a little bit. We're talking about a clean 19-yard game. So after dropping down to number 3 in week 4, going into week 5, McCarron stays at number 2. Number 1, the Spring King, from the AAF to the XFL to the Spring League to one day and fan-controlled football. Brandon Silvers keeping the crown at number 1 for XFL quarterbacks. 24 of 30, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing attempt, -1 rushing yards. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. It seems like him and AJ Smith just have it figured out, and it's their XFL, and we're all just watching it, right? I love what I'm seeing from Silvers. Like I said, I was uber disappointed I didn't see him play in the USFL last year. This year, he's on pace to throw for 25 touchdowns, 2,400 passing yards. I mean, who do you stop on this offense? You got a trio of running backs who are studs: Ben Putnam, Nick Hawley, Kirkland, Deontay Burnett, Cedric Byrd. It just says it's going to be the same thing I say every week at this point. As long as he plays turnover-free football, ball's literally in his hands. He can give it to whoever he wants. The receivers are running around on the field. Garrett Owens has been very quiet in the passing game. He's been big in the rushing attack with some blocks. He's been pretty quiet in the passing game. He'd be a number 3 option for a lot of these other teams. He's like number 7 right now. I don't know who you stop at this point to contain this offense, but granted, the Guardians aren't the best team ever, but they're still throwing 44 points. Excuse me, they threw about 36 points on the Guardians because of that fumble by Paxton Lynch. So Silvers tops out at number 1. I mean, he continues to just make it happen. It's getting to the point where a lot of this is becoming redundant with a lot of these quarterbacks. The cream is rising to the top, and the guys who are just struggling are regressing. Some of these guys you really can't knock on too much. It seems like there's a lot of coaching issues. I mean, even the Guardians, the worst team in the league, can't blame it all on their quarterback. As far as who's the worst quarterback in this league of the top starters, really is Jack Cohn. I mean, Kyle Slowder, I think, is better than Jack Cohn, but it's becoming evident that some of these teams are having major issues schematically and game plans, while obviously you got the Battlehawks, Defenders, and the Roughnecks above and beyond everyone else. So those are my rankings this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I got a good interview coming up, so I hope everyone subscribed to that. If I got something right, I got something wrong, let me know in the comments. Appreciate your time.